Pack Lapadat. And Jonah, I don't want to butcher your last name. I want the proper pronunciation. So what is the proper pronunciation, sir?
In German, it's Jonah Wiendieck.
Yuna
And then,
Vindik?
yeah, Jonah Wiendieck. But you can say Jonah, and last name is Wiendieck.
Vindik.
Yes, yeah, good enough. Good enough.
Okay. See, I knew it was gonna. That's why I wanted you to say it. I always get close enough for good enough. Good enough. It is what it is. My last name's Lapadat, and it's Romanian. And I've never been to Romania. I don't speak Romanian. So when people are like Lapadat or something close, I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm probably not saying my own last name properly. You know what I'm saying? I'll be honest with you. So I'm not gonna get overly picky with you. I'm not gonna get offended. Don't worry. But thank you for coming on the podcast. First off, you had a flippin' sensational battle at the Junior Worlds for the 120 kilo title. You're signed up as the number one nomination for the European Championships in the 120s now in the Open. And for a lot of people, I mean, I remember going into the Junior Worlds, people like, you better watch out for this German kid who's fast rising. And you had only had two competitions ahead of time.
Yeah.
And the amount of kilos you put on your total ended up breaking into the 900s, etc. But the amount of kilos you put on your total and how quickly, with just two competitions previously, it was a huge coming out party, as they say, to put yourself on the map for everybody at the Junior Worlds just a few months ago. And now coming into the European Championship, now you're in the Open, and we got some veterans on there, like Coco, Indy from Great Britain, and you're the number one nomination already. And it's just been a year since you've been competing. So a lot of people, and you're putting on kilos fast. So a lot of people are like, "Hey, who is this guy who just seemingly came out of nowhere?" I see you on Instagram. You're crazy jacked. So you haven't just been lifting for a year. That's for that's for
Nope.
damn sure. You're huge, jacked, ripped, and so your background, get a little bit like how you found powerlifting and powerlifting in Germany, and also like what we can look forward to in the future because the amount of kilos you're putting on and then obviously we'll get into the 120s and your views on the 120s. We got the champ Tony Cliffe, we got Bobb Matthews crossing over from the USAPL. We got those two gentlemen talking a little bit of shit on social media. um you had a rivalry in the juniors with Alcheri Etienne. I'm probably butchering his last name, but Etienne nudged past you for the junior world title in a sensational battle, and I'm sure you're gonna have more battles. He's from Lebanon, so he won't be at the Euros. But yeah, man, we got some stuff to talk about. I'm interested, man. I'm interested in your background story in the whole nine. So, yeah, let's kick it off from the start here. How did you find powerlifting?
Okay, first of all, thanks for the invitation.
Yeah,
Wanted to
100%.
get that out first.
Yeah.
Um, how I started powerlifting. I've been training now since 6 years. I started at the age of 17. And yeah, the first 2 years was just chest and bicep.
Yeah,
So my
yeah, it
bench got
was.
strong fast. And after that, I did 3 years of bodybuilding, actually. Um, I did three competition preps, competition diets, but never stepped on stage because of
I was gonna.
Corona.
Okay, because I was gonna say, my man. So, people had told me because I was researching a little, and they're like, he comes from bodybuilding. Then I was researching again, looking. I'm like, fuck, I can see the physique, 100%. You're jacked to shit. And then I saw the posing, and this wasn't posing like me when I'm trying to pose for a freaking. You can pose. Like you can pose like a bodybuilder can pose. Like you have actual posing skills. So I'm like, for sure, I see it. I see the jacked. I see the posing, and I kept looking. Oh, shit, I didn't see any competition though. In Corona, So how hard is that to be like? Because bodybuilding's not easy in terms of dieting and the whole
Yeah,
nine.
Yeah, it was actually kind of hard. I started my first prep 2020, wanted to step on stage in April. And yeah, then the whole situation happened and the first competition got canceled 4 weeks out, I'm thinking. Um, then I did a little bit of off season, started my next prep at the end of the year for July 2021. Also got canceled, did a little photo shooting instead. And then I did my third contest prep started it in August 2000, must have been 21. Yeah, 21 and 22. And yeah, 21, it must have been 21. And yeah, I actually got sick 2 weeks out.
Damn. And so how did you get into bodybuilding?
I always was, I've played sports since I was 6 years old. I did water polo, I did tennis, I did soccer. Of course, in Germany, you need to do soccer. And I played basketball on a semi-professional level. And yeah, I always was strong. I always was a little bit bigger than the other kids. I always was a little bit stronger. And my father actually always watched strongman on television. And I like being strong. He liked being strong. He pushed me kind of in that direction. And so I started to go into the gym at 17. And I always liked hardcore sports. So sports where you need to put a lot of effort into, where you have a little fight against yourself, and that's basically bodybuilding. And I just had fun training. So I'm competitive. I had fun training. I'm thinking, what can I do with it? First option, bodybuilding, of course.
Is it like, how big is bodybuilding in Germany though? Like in terms of finding it, like obviously everyone knows Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was born in Austria but moved to Germany and made it big in Germany. And when he was winning the initial titles, it's all in Germany. I don't know if you're like a Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. I read all like both autobiographies, and like I'm a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. So I know bodybuilding has a history in Germany. Is it pretty big or?
It's pretty big already, and it's getting even bigger. So the last few years, the bodybuilding community grew a lot. Especially natural bodybuilding is very big in Germany, probably even bigger than most countries. We have a lot of high level natural bodybuilders. And in the IFBB, we have Urs Kaczynski, who just competed in the Classic Physique at the Mr. Olympia. And yeah, a few years back, we had Marcus Rule stuff. So in the IFBB, we have a few guys, not a lot of guys, but the community and the hype around bodybuilding is very, very big.
The thing with bodybuilding in terms of like when you go the natural route. So when you go, it's almost the inverse of powerlifting, where in powerlifting, the tested division, like the IPF, is so much bigger than the untested.
Yeah.
I mean, so much bigger. And it kind of makes sense where if you do powerlifting untested and you're on tons of gear, when you look at the average career length of some of those individuals, due to the amount of gear they're doing, heavy loads that they're putting their muscles under, injury can be relatively high because the amount of weight they shift to what their actual genetics and frame can actually handle. Injuries go super high. The gear is super harsh on their body. So the careers appear to be somewhat shorter. Whereas in the tested, a lot, these natural lifters, the amount of weight is still incredible, but it's within reason. People aren't ending up like Ronnie Coleman. It's more, you're going to lift what your frame can actually lift. You're not exceeding that. Obviously, the organs and everything. I mean, you're taking creatine and whatnot, but it's not going to be the harshness. So powerlifting, the amount of tested athletes is way bigger, the length of, career, etc. But on the flip side, in bodybuilding, I've talked to some people who come from the bodybuilding world, and because you eat so few, you get so low on body fat, eat so few calories. What you actually do to your body, you atrophy your muscles, you bring yourself to like almost death's door. That's an exaggeration, I get
Yeah.
it, but like, and they actually said, people have explained it's actually the inverse. Where if you take some whatever, I'm not great on PEDs, but like whether I'm sure there's a bunch of plethora you can take, you will actually lose less muscle mass, bounce back quicker, and it's easier recovery. You could do it more often. There are natural bodybuilders who are like, I compete once every 2 years just because I can't sustain that low body weight, bounce back, however,
Yeah.
get the muscle mass back on that I lost because you lose so much muscle mass while trying to lose fat. And like they said, it's like, yeah, it's the total inverse. It's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course, to the first point, the untested bodybuilding is way bigger. And
Yeah.
I'm actually glad I found powerlifting now because at 22 in bodybuilding, if I've stayed a few years longer, I probably went in the untested direction. I probably would have went in the untested direction. Um, but on the health thing, I mean, I'm not an expert either. I can't say how harsh gear is on your body. And but I know that as a natural lifter, you cannot compete as often. You need to have a recovery phase because your testosterone, for example, needs about even half a year to recover after one prep. Um, then you lose a lot of muscle. It's not the healthiest sport, especially contest prep. I'm thinking the contest prep as itself is maybe healthier on gear. Could
Yeah.
be.
I've heard that. I swear to God, I've heard people say you're better off on your body taking stuff like not going crazy, but
Yeah,
you are better off on your body on gear, which is crazy to say, but
yeah, it
it's not
could
like a
be.
normal
Could be.
sport. It's not like a
Yeah.
normal, it's different.
Yeah, it's very different. And I actually miss bodybuilding. A few parts of bodybuilding I miss. The first part is as now I need to weigh around 120 kilos. I always eat clean. I always eat on plan, and I have to eat a lot. So right now, to hold my weight, I'm eating about 5,500 calories.
Yeah,
And
I saw that, by the way. I was going to
yeah,
ask you. That's a lot of food. You're a big fella, but that's a lot of food.
yeah, and
Clean?
that
How
sucks.
do you eat 5,500 clean? That's crazy.
A lot of rice, and actually, I found a way. Rice flour.
No, I do
Um,
not. Like just
it's
flour.
just flour, but from rice.
Okay.
And if you buy it very cheap and mix it with water, it does not mix very well. So you can chug it.
Oh my God.
So
It's
so
you're,
I'm
you're
drinking.
drinking rice.
Yeah, I'm drinking rice two
Oh
times a
my
day.
yeah. That's how you get it in. Fair enough,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. And actually, the hardest part was last year after I did my first powerlifting competition. As I prepared for my second, I did my first powerlifting competition at 110 kilos, and I wanted to get my second in 3 months later at 120 kilos, and I ate 7,000 calories clean for 3 months.
Holy dude. That's a great like 400-pound strong men are going to be eating like that much calories. And so you
Yeah,
were
and
doing
so
this like as a bulking phase or
yeah, just as a bulking phase to get up to that weight. After that, I did a little diet for about 2 months. I'm thinking at the start of this year, and then I bulked up to 120 again.
and how
So
tall are you in inches?
in inches,
I could do the math. I could grab a
yeah,
calculator on it.
I think just under 6 foot,
Oh,
maybe so.
really?
So yeah.
Dude, you must be thick as shit. You must be so flippin' thick, it's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, but it sucks. Also, um, I'm actually looking forward to doing a diet again. After the Europeans, I will actually cut down to 115 kilos and then I go back up to 120.
And when you do these cuts, like, um, Why are you doing the cuts? Is it just if you can be 120 all year round?
To get my appetite back, to maybe just grow a little muscle tissue without gaining as much fat. Just feel better for the
Right.
most part. Just feel a little better. I mean, I'm young. I just started lifting in the 120s. I don't need to always push to be as heavy as I can. I can grow. I can, yeah, take my time to fill it out with a body fat and a way that I like. Yeah.
And when you were in bodybuilding, were you like aware of powerlifting and following powerlifting, or were you completely like into bodybuilding and not even really following powerlifting yet?
Not even a little bit. I just
Whoa,
knew I just knew Russell Ory and Larry Wheels, of course. But
no,
those were the
yeah, those
only
are the big.
guys I knew.
Really, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm actually in Houston and like gonna link up with Russ like later on today. It's crazy you say. Um, but yeah, but I mean, because Russ looks like a bodybuilder. He's
Yeah.
flirted with doing bodybuilding as well.
Yeah. And I think I must have been 2020, 2021 when he won Worlds. I saw one video of him, started following him in, and yeah, Larry Wheels, of course, was
Right.
big back then, and but it's still like that. I still don't know a lot of bodybuilding, powerlifters, because
Really?
it's and I don't want to come off as ignorant, but I try to keep my mind away a little bit from powerlifting and other powerlifters because I don't want to have it affect my training. So, for example, as you mentioned, my battle against Char Etienne at the Junior Worlds, I've never seen a video of Etienne before because
Well, it,
I just try to ignore it, don't do my best, and keep it like that. Maybe when I have a little bit more experience in the sport, that will change. And of course, I'm learning. I'm getting to know a few powerlifters. But actually, I've heard of Rondell Hunt the first time a few months ago. Didn't know him before.
well, holy smokes, man. I mean, that is obviously so. What do you know these guys now? Like, is it just basically through like because okay, put it this way. The more you stick around and the more competitions you go to, the more people you're going to meet, and it's just going to happen. Like you could, you know, and I know you said like I don't want to sound ignorant, but like ignorance just means not knowing. It's not rude. It's just ignorance. And sometimes we have an expression in English: ignorance is bliss, which means kind of what you're alluding to, not knowing sometimes. Sometimes when you go into a competition, you have a bunch of crazy opposition. Like these guys are amazing opposition, and you don't know who they are. You don't even know to be nervous. You don't know how big it
Yeah,
is. They're like, how are you handling this pressure? You're only a year in, and you're like, I don't even know who these guys are. Should I be intimidated? And they're like, oh my God, you're going against legends. And you're like, ignorance is bliss sometimes. But eventually, with success, they're going to know who you are and they're going to see you. People are going to bring them up to you. We're going to talk about it today. Like it's just going to end up happening. But at least for the early goings, I know what you mean. Where you're like, if I could just slow this and just
yeah,
enjoy this moment right now without having to worry about all that.
yeah. Because of course it's a lot of pressure for me to just come in the sport. A lot of people watch you, especially in Germany. Yeah, there's a bit of hype around me, and people are talking about me. And as I just started the sport last year, I've did my first competition, and last year I've actually started powerlifting training after my first competition. And
Oh, dude, you did that with just bodybuilding training?
yeah, I think the first competition was in July. I've started preparing. I started training, putting the compound lift back in, so squat, bench, deadlift back in April. And before I didn't squat, I didn't deadlift, I didn't bench, and I just did three or four sets of compound lift at the beginning on on failure, and then I did a whole bodybuilding routine afterwards.
dude, for you to be doing was it 926.5? Or is it hang on.
925.
Sorry, yeah, let's see. 925.5, that's right. And
Yeah.
ETN put 926. Yeah, for you to be doing that when you're like essentially coming in off of bodybuilding. Like the background of powerlifting, obviously you started powerlifting leading into that, but like the amount of powerlifting you had. This is did you get a powerlifting coach yet?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
After my first nationals, I got a powerlifting coach. He's called
Sorry, go ahead.
It's called Hannes. It's not internationally known. It's a German coach, a big German coach, and I've been training with him for it now 8 months or 9 months. Yes.
So how did you end up even transitioning from bodybuilding to powerlifting? Like, how did you find powerlifting and decide, I think I'm going to go this route?
Obviously, I knew what powerlifting was. I sometimes I deadlifted, sometimes I squatted, and I knew what it was. And a lot of people told me, yeah, you should do powerlifting, because I think first time I benched 200 kilos was after 1.5 years training with 18 at 18. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something like
people
this.
don't bench 200 kilos with a year and a half. That doesn't happen, man. That doesn't happen. Wow.
And that's why I got told a lot to do powerlifting, but I was doing bodybuilding. I wanted to do at least one show. But then after my third prep I did, where I got sick, I thought maybe do a little powerlifting competition in the middle of the year and do bodybuilding after. So my first initial thought was to do powerlifting competition in, I think it was June or July. And after that, go directly to diet, in a diet prep, in a competition prep, and do bodybuilding in October, I think. So it was just for fun. But then, okay, I didn't, first of all, I didn't know that I was strong. So because the only content I consumed was Ronnie Coleman and stuff. So they were benching 260, I benched 200 or 210 or 220. I thought, okay, it's quite normal. It's strong, but it's not crazy strong. And then after I did my first competition, I thought, okay, maybe you got a shot at this, and transitioned into powerlifting.
And it's come so quickly though. Like, because your transition initially into powerlifting, like you said, you were essentially doing bodybuilding leading into it for the prep. And when you've fully taken on powerlifting, the amount of kilos you've put on to your total and the possibility now, it's come so quickly. I mean, for a lot of people to hear this, they're like, oh my God, to be having those kind of numbers without even committing to the sport, just being like, oh, I bench every now and then, and to be like 210, 220 kilos, that's crazy. This get for anyone using pounds, that's getting close to 500-pound bench press. Yeah, man, that's pretty crazy. So people must have been, first off, the powerlifting scene in Germany. It's going to be smaller than bodybuilding, I'm sure. But how big is it? And did people start reaching out to you from the powerlifting scene? And if you could describe the powerlifting scene in Germany, because a lot of people don't know.
Okay, it's not that big yet, but it's growing very, very fast. So I think after I stepped in, the last year, it's grown a lot. A lot of young people coming in, but it's maybe like a few thousand active powerlifters in the IPF division in Germany is called BVDK. I think there's a few thousand lifters as a whole. So it's not that big yet, but it's a very tight community. And as I started in, I was this bodybuilding guy. I talked a lot about bodybuilding. I seemed like I don't give a shit about powerlifting because I didn't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
So a few people liked that, and a lot of people didn't like it. And yeah, it's been that way since till now. And the sport is growing very, very fast. We have it's getting a lot of social media attention. Germany has a lot of strong juniors in almost every class, so it's growing a lot, and I think in the future it will get very, very big.
Here's the thing with you being able to hit these bodybuilding poses and stuff, like the reason why you found Russell Orhe and Larry Wheels, they both bodybuilded. That's no coincidence. When you could present yourself, like there's a lot of big muscular jack guys in powerlifting. In the women's class, whatever, a lot of like powerlifters are in the gym 2 to 3 hours a day, like 4 to 5 days a week. They're jacked. They're in great shape. But it's a legit skill to be able to present yourself, hitting those poses and whatnot, knowing. And like when Russell Orhe does it, Larry Wheels or whoever, insert the person, they know what they're doing. And it is for you to help, and some people may not totally realize this in Germany, but if for you to enter powerlifting and to be able to do that, and to be able to, hit a post where you're hitting a pose and you are crazy jacked, it will attract people when they're scrolling to be like, holy shit, what is this? Most people, when they go to the gym, initially, they're looking to put on muscle mass, get strong, but they don't have a direct, nobody signs up for the gym right off the bat being like, I'm here to become a power lifter. Nobody does that. You go to the gym to get in shape. You want to look good, be strong, feel good, and then you find powerlifting or you find whatever sport it is. Olympic lifting, CrossFit, bodybuilding, whatever the shit. But you first get in the door like that. So when we have guys like you, and then the aforementioned Russell Orhe, Larry Wheels, when people are going to the gym and guys like you are posting and they're scrolling, you're the guy that they're going to be like, oh, what's this, man? This is that would be a dream. I want to be as jacked as this guy. And then they're like, holy shit, he's strong. And then they get into, oh, he's a national champion powerlifter. He's at the world championships. And boom, we get their appetite for powerlifting. This is how it grows, man.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
That's actually my goal, to maybe, combine bodybuilding and powerlifting a little bit, show that you can be jacked and look good as a powerlifter. And actually my training has a lot of bodybuilding elements still in it. So I'm on a normal training day, I'm training my competition lifts very submaximal. It worked quite good for me. Maybe at the start of a block at an RPE 4 or 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so very, very light. And most of the blocks I do, training blocks, I finish at an RPE 7 or 8. So I think the first 8-9 months I started powerlifting, I never went over an RPE 8, even in competition. Not.
Like, so, is this a lot of volume, or like, because that's you kind of went in there not knowing yourself what your top end would be, right? Like, did you test them? Did you ever like just test the squat or deadlift, or are you just like, I got no idea, let's see what happens?
The heaviest deadlift I did before junior nationals was 305 kilos, I think. The heaviest squat was 330, so I squatted 340. So it wasn't that far off. And I actually tested bench before, so I pressed 250 2 times before, but that wasn't planned. So the week before I benched, I think, 235, and I just told my coach, I sent him the video, I wrote, they felt light. Next week I'm going to bench 250. Don't matter what you write in the plan.
Yeah, it is what it is. Take it. And for people listening, that's 551 pounds. It's incredible, man. I mean, 551, it's entirely reasonable to be like, you could be benching 600 pounds in the future, which is 272.5 or 272, actually. I mean, we're within 20 kilos of that, and you're 23, is it?
Yeah, 23.
I mean, dude,
yes.
Who the frick knows? The sky's the limit. Like, yeah, it's impressive. But so you prefer to stay within a lighter RPE range? Is this from like the bodybuilding background, you think?
I think it's from bodybuilding background, and I don't prefer it per se, but it very good, works for me. So I'm doing a lot of assistance work. A normal training day for me is compound lift and then maybe 8 or 9 accessories.
Oh
Lot
my
lot
God.
of
That's tons of
yeah,
accessories.
yeah, and I train to failure on almost every exercise. So I have a full leg day, I have a full push day, I have a pull day, and I actually coach that way myself, and it really well works, especially for bigger guys, because you keep the stress down, you can grow muscle, especially as a young guy, while doing powerlifting, and still make gains, do work on your technique in the competition lifts. So it works, and it's a lot of fun. So
Right.
if I would not train my accessories to failure, I think I would be not doing powerlifting right now.
That's that's interesting to be doing and I guess this is where you can get that muscle growth as opposed to
Yeah.
just the central nervous system being taxed and getting stronger. It's adding on that quality muscle mass. And you wouldn't be taxing the nervous system crazy by doing the like accessories.
Yeah.
It's not going to rev that engine.
And another thing is actually to prevent injuries. I heard you talking with Tony Cliffe a few episodes back, and he said his thought on why he hasn't been injured as much is switching between equipped and raw powerlifting. So he has a little bit of variation. The thought on my training, as I coach it myself, as my coach does it, is to build that variation into the plan. To maybe take a step back on the compound lifts, on the competition lifts, and do a lot of accessory work, but you have a lot of variability. You move the muscles from a lot of directions, a lot of angles. And I think that's actually a big part of why I don't have any problems. No aches, no pains, always, yeah, fit, of course. And I'm not doing this sport a very long time now.
It is interesting though, because sometimes, training ideologies move in cycles. And we've gone through phases, we've gone through so many phases in powerlifting,
Yeah.
but we've gone through some phases where like a crazy amount of volume in terms of, bench, squat, deadlift. And it's not necessarily wrong, but it's just other times athletes emerge and they're like, look it, I may squat 3 times a week, but I'm not staying in the squat rack the entire time like you guys might be. I'll squat, hit my top sets, and I'll move on to my accessories. And I'm finding that's good. Like how, for instance, how many days a week do you squat and deadlift and bench? And how long are you, like, what are your sets like before you move on to these 8 or 9 accessories?
This block I squatted 2 times, which is quite normal, I think. I benched 2 times and I deadlifted 1 time. I never deadlifted more than 1 time a week. And most days I do about 3 or 4 sets of a competition lift. Especially in deadlift, it's because I do not my technique isn't perfect. I'm not the best deadlifter, and I'm not built for deadlifting. It's very taxing for me, so we most of the time don't even touch 300 through a block.
Oh,
And
wow.
I do about 3 or 4 sets of deadlifts. I do about 3 or 4 sets of squats, and also on bench. And as I said, I'm most of the time training very light. So I started at an RPE 4, I moved to an RPE 5 or 6 in week 2, maybe a 7 in week 3. And by week 4, I maybe hit a 7.5 or an 8. And I most of the time I don't lift heavier.
Dude, this is incredible. To go with, I mean, even benching twice a week, 3 or 4 sets is crazy. I mean, it's not crazy because you're benching 250 kilos. You broke the junior world record. I mean, it's whatever. It obviously it's working. I mean, it's but I haven't heard that. Most people now are saying like more volume for bench. You could bench like 4 days a week.
Yeah.
If for you to say like I'm benching twice a week, 2 to 3 sets, sorry, 3 to 4 sets, which isn't a lot. You can be done your benching relatively quickly
Yeah.
twice a week at RPE, like 4, 5. I'll get up to a 10, about 4, whatever, getting close. And then I'm all good. Thank you. Load up the world record. Like, that's crazy for a lot of people to hear.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun, first of all, to
Right.
to train to failure, have a lot of variability, to not spend the whole time in the squat rack. I think it gets boring quite fast, and it works very well for me and for, I must say, a lot of other lifters. In Germany, I coach myself that way. My coach, actually, I don't know if you heard of him, Björn Döcker. It's a junior from Germany, 105 kilos. He was also coached for the last 2 or 3 years by my coach. And in Germany, a few guys are training this way. So it's coming up. We have a few coaches that coach that way, and it's a lot of fun. It works. You have a lot of variability. You can build a lot of muscle. Is why I think it works for especially young lifters, and still have enough training, enough skill practice in the competition lifts. And I must say, I'm not always doing 2 times bench a week. I think we just talked about the new block in preparation for the Europeans, and we going back up to three times a week.
Okay. Well, still, that's still pretty crazy. But again, if you're doing 8 to 9 accessories, like, how long are you in the gym?
2 or 3 hours at least.
Okay. Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
still in there. You're
Yeah.
just, you're getting it in and bringing it to failure. I don't know. It's interesting, man. I wonder what the future brings. Oh, you just need somebody to start excelling and start talking about a different methodology in terms of training. And some people are like, well, that's interesting. Maybe I should try that. I mean, there's some people who do, like, Leah Bavois on here talking about, like, she does, like, no accessories. Like, she
Yeah.
has them programmed. She just won't do them, right? And I think Penna, if I'm not mistaken, isn't big on accessories. Some people, and it obviously works for them, world champions, God
Of
bless.
course.
But everybody's different, and it probably, I bet you there's going to be some people who start getting worn down from specific lifts and are like, frick, what does this mean? Am I nearing the end? And it's like, no, you could just adjust. Or maybe you were always the person who should have been on a different methodology of training.
Yeah.
You just forced yourself to do like everyone else because that's what everyone else was doing, but your body was always going to respond this other way.
Yeah.
And for Leah and Penna, it wouldn't work. But for some people trying to replicate what Leah and Penna do, they're grinding themselves, they're getting injured. In
Yeah.
it, you have, that's why I'm glad to have people from around the world having these conversations, because there's different ways to do it. There's no
Yeah.
right and
And
wrong.
longevity is actually a big part of it. I mean, I'm thinking I'm probably gonna progress a little bit faster if I'm training heavily, more heavy, doing compound lifts more often, more setting focus more on compound lifts. But I'm thinking about longevity. I'm quite strong now. I move a lot of weight. I don't want to get injured too
Right.
fast, and I want to keep my training variable, grow muscle. As I said, I still love bodybuilding. I still want to look big. I enjoy training to failure. I think it has a lot of benefits for my health, for my mobility, for all these things. So yeah, I just prefer this way. But I feel point that there are a lot of ways, and I know the French guys are training a lot different, and it works too.
Yeah. It's fascinating, man. That's why it's all different data points. Depends who you get, and you try, like, oh, this isn't working for you. You toss them in a different program. You have to shake things up, see what happens.
Yeah,
But it is interesting, and it is doubling back in terms of like the bodybuilding, powerlifting, or power building, or whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
You never fully have to compete in bodybuilding. You could just be a champion powerlifter and hit those bodybuilding poses with the right lighting, post up on Instagram,
Yeah.
and that'll do the trick. You never got to kill yourself for a bodybuilding show now, because in bodybuilding, they straight up, it gets crazy. And you can have the best of both worlds.
I actually miss killing myself for a bodybuilding
Really?
prep.
Is there, so what is it? Is it, it's funny you say that, because there's something about, I mean, I respect where people want to test how disciplined can I get? And they think, like, some people talk about discipline like discipline is like a punishment. Literally, it's like I'm going to discipline him. And that means you're getting him in trouble. Like, that word gets synonymous with like punishing yourself, whereas other people view it as, my friend, discipline is actually your freedom. You're a slave to your cravings. You're a slave to your what you feel like you need. You want more like it, not need. Whereas discipline is breaking free of that and assuming control. And there's something about, can I do this? Can I be as disciplined and focused and consistent in how far? And then till you get on stage, you're like, let me present.
And that's the part I miss. Being this focused, being this rundown, just every day is a little fight against yourself. And it's just hardcore. And I miss that kind of, I miss that kind of intensity. I mean, in powerlifting, you have it on meet day, but most of the time, it's not that hard, that you have a lot of cravings, that you always feel tired, that it's just hard and you don't want to keep on going. And especially at the end of it, you just feel the kind of reward that is hard to get.
Yeah, you earned it. It's like it's the same reason why, like, I mean, I don't like running, but when you have runners doing marathons and training for marathons, ultra marathons, it's that grind of being like, I don't even know if I could do this. This is insane. Getting up and doing it anyways. And then you go to sleep, you're fatigued, you're like, oh my God, I'm just hanging in. I'm just hanging in. You're looking at the date on the calendar and you're like, 4 more weeks, let's go. Let's go. And there's something about that, hanging in and pushing in the grind, that I'm a big MMA and boxing fan. And when I listen to those podcasts, a lot of the retired athletes talk about that. They're like, when you're in the grind, there's something like your body's beat up, fatigued, the whole nine, but you have a mission and you have a date and you have people around you that are like trying to steer you there. And you're like, whoa, we're getting close. And it's, I know you mean, where it's, powerlifting doesn't quite have that. It doesn't feel the same as those other sports that we just talked about. And there's a lot of other sports like that. And I do know you mean, where, you feel like, I'm an athlete now, but it's a little different. Although, here's what I will say though. The more you keep pushing, and with your wealth of potential, my friend, you're going to end up in some major showdowns. In the open worlds, you're in the open Europeans. You're the #1 nomination in the open Europeans. In powerlifting in Europe is, in Germany, you said it's getting bigger. All over Europe, powerlifting is exploding. I remember a time when the European Championship in North America, nobody's really paying attention. I would do King of Lift podcast preview shows for Worlds, US Nats, but I didn't do them like every now and then for the Europeans. Now, for sure, I have to. There's so many world champions coming out of Europe. It'd be crazy not to. And so the competitiveness in Europe is getting bigger and bigger. And the more you start arriving in these major showdowns, the training will probably remain the same, but the feeling towards it and the hype and the attention will make that date and everything. It'll start feeling different, I think.
I always said powerlifting competitions are way better than bodybuilding competitions.
Oh yeah. Well, that no doubt.
Way better.
That no doubt.
As an athlete, or even to watch. And I actually never did powerlifting because of the show. I never really looked forward to the show. It was the end. You had a goal, but the presenting myself half naked on the stage, all up, that wasn't my goal. I just like the grind, as you said.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm looking forward. I loved the battle at the juniors. Chaitin, great guy. We had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to have these battles.
So now that you're in the mix, are you watching a little more? Like I'm sure you know who Bobb Matthews is. Did you see the chatter between Tony and Bobb Matthews? And are you paying attention to some of this?
I actually didn't saw the battle itself. I just heard about it on your podcast, as you did with Bob.
It's getting so this is what's interesting. Okay. With success comes attention. And um and then the heated rivalries, and then the showdowns, and then the social media picks, the preview shows, who's going to win, yada yada, and then the clashes at the top, and then inevitably stuff like that's going to happen, right? You got a guy like Tony who's spicy. Tony loves to spice it up. He's a wily veteran, multiple time world champion. And he's going to Sheffield. And then you got Bobb Matthews coming over from USAPL, and he's not backing down. He wants to take everything Tony's got. And I mean, it's obviously Rondell Hunt is hanging in the wings. All attention on Rondell, and Rondell as well. He's gotten into it with Taylor Atwood, who's half his size,
Yeah,
but you can use formulas to compare, which in our sports, so even you can have sports rivals not even in your own weight class.
yeah.
And Rondell, who's as nice a guy as they come, gotten himself into like rivalries, etc. Um, how do you feel about these social media rivalries? Obviously, it's become more and more a part of the sport. How do you feel about it? And are you telling yourself, holy shit, man, now I'm moving into the open. I'm the number one nomination at Euros. My kilos are going to keep moving. If I pop up on Tony's radar, Bob's radar, Rondell, you start pushing into the late 900s, you're going to. Yeah, how do you feel about it all?
First of all, I think it's great. It makes the sport more interesting. It gets people involved. It's as itself, it's great. I don't know if I'm the guy for social media beef, as you could say. I know it's not really beef, it's banter. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't do it yet.
right.
But I love the competition, and I love being challenged to move up. As I heard, Tony Cliffe isn't doing Euros. I actually was disappointed because I wanted to compete against him, and as Bobb Matthews is coming over, hopefully someday Rondell Hunt is
I think you will.
in the same mix, and I would love to compete against these guys and have these competitions. Maybe then I'll be more open on social media, have a little bit of banter, but I don't know if I'm the guy for this. But I love competition, and I love rivalries, and I love showing up on meet day and just battling it out.
And when you're in the middle of the mix, in terms of like growing the sport in your nation, like in Germany, this is how it's done. You got to get in the middle of like a major rivalry. You got to catch some
Yeah,
rivals from around the world. Prominent figures like Tony, who's like a legend, and Bobb Matthews, who's like established himself as like a pound for pound freaking phenom.
yeah,
And being in the middle of the mix with those gentlemen is where people are. It just is going to draw attention. It is what it is, and people are going to look over to Germany, and within Germany, they're going to be like, "Oh shit, we got one." And he's right in the mix with those guys. Doing it at Junior Worlds is one thing, because
yeah.
ETN from Lebanon, it's not a massive powerlifting nation. He's not going to be bringing a massive social media boost in its Junior Worlds. You enter the Open, you start going against guys like I just mentioned, and Rondell Hunt when he returns. Oh, Nelly, it
It's a
is
whole
what it is.
different ball game.
Do you feel like because you've been thrust into this so quickly? Is it exciting, overwhelming, or is it because you're still at the cusp? Put it this way. You know what's very interesting about this discussion we're having? When I talk to you a year from now, when I talk to you 2 years from now, and God knows where your total is going to be because you're exploding. It's happening so quickly for you. This is going to be the timestamp right before all this happens. You know that.
Yeah,
This is right before all these guys are going to be going head to head with you. If they don't know who you are, they do now. And then they're going to see you on the platform and be like, oh, what the shit? So you're going to look back and be like, oh, I had no idea what was coming.
No, I love it. I'm actually looking forward to it because I myself am very optimistic about my progress. I maybe a lot of times overrate myself.
That's okay. That's what athletes got to do, man. You got to have self-belief.
Yeah, especially in the first year. As you progress very fast, you think you're always going to progress this fast. Sure. And I'm already thinking about having a 4-digit total and being at the next level. And maybe the next few years will bring that, but I look forward to having attention, having people there who challenge me, who I can fight against, and having great competitions. That's it. And I think the sport in Germany as itself is growing, but the more people in Germany compete at an international level and are successful at an international level, the more the sport going to grow.
Oh yeah, if you end up at the World Championships and you're in the mix of a massive 120 kilo battle, for Germany to have a representative in one of those battles that everybody's talking about, all the podcasts all over the world have to mention you from Germany. That's how it's done. Or I mean, best case scenario, Germany sending people to Sheffield because they won those battles. Exponential growth, my friend. For when we see nations rise, like France, Italy, when they started from being way smaller, Spain is starting to catch up now too.
Yeah.
They need people to break through. First, be in the mix, in the conversation, so everyone's talking about them. And then when the battle comes, you start winning some of these battles. Say less, man. Now people from that home nation, when they're going to the gym, whatnot, and they're looking online and they find you, and then they're like, oh, let me follow this guy. Holy shit. And they follow you through your journey to the worlds. And then whether you battle end up on podium or God bless if you win, my friend, they're sold. If they followed you before and then follow you in, like, oh my God, we got one. Holy crap. They're telling their friends, dude, I found a guy online and he goes to the gym. Did you hear about Jonah? Yeah. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear about Jonah? And they're like, no, he's showing all the pictures, videos, and then they're watching together, and you go to battle and you do your damn thing, whether it's gold, silver, bronze. That's how we win. That's how winning is done in getting people to cross over into powerlifting. It puts a little bit of pressure, but on the flip side, I mean, it's rewarding it because that's the difference when you go to Worlds and you're representing Germany. This, and hopefully also people from the federation and whatnot, they understand as well. Like you said, look I came in and some people looking at me like I'm still a bodybuilder or looking at me certain ways like this dude, this isn't a bad thing. This guy knows how to present himself. And that's actually going to win over a lot of people who, especially if you're in a nation that hasn't fully bought into powerlifting. Not yet, not fully bought into powerlifting. The first thing they're into is fitness, looking good, feeling good, whatever. That's what they want to see, is the dude with the shirt off posing, and they're like, I want to be like that. That's why you found Russell Orhe. That's why you found Larry Wheels.
Yes.
That's why it works, man. That's why those dudes are so important for our sport. So hopefully everybody recognizes, no. You want him shirtless, jacked, and posing and throwing. It's like a beacon of light to bring people in. You know what I mean? But we'll see. What are your plans for the Europeans?
In numbers?
You know what? Like even overall, do you think like because, and you don't have to give specific numbers. You could give a range. But your progress has been phenomenal. First off, like you're throwing like 50 kilos on. You just started powerlifting programming. I have no idea where your potential is, and that's part of the allure and excitement around you. Is have you heard of this guy? He's literally, when people first started sending me your posts, they were like, this dude's a bodybuilding programming, and look what he's doing. And I was like, how long has he been powerlifting? They're like, a year. And I'm like, how is this possible? I think we got a special talent here. So not only just number ranges, if you don't mind, if you want to keep your cards close to your chest, that's fine too, but also how you want to be perceived afterwards, because it's an international competition on the open, and I think a lot more people are going to be paying attention.
My first big goal is to get my deadlift up. I want to be deadlifting above, maybe around 950, 350, 950.
I was going to say, well,
Optimistic, as I said.
I was going to say, it's a little early. December's coming quick. December's. But yeah,
I want
yeah.
to deadlift about 350 kilos because my deadlift always been behind. I always squatted more than I
I was going to
deadlifted.
say, you squat more than you did. And that's leverages. You're built like a super heavyweight, though. If you're under 6 feet and that large, it makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, and junior worlds, my last deadlift, that's the only thing I'm not happy about. Because as I said, my leverage aren't the best for deadlift. We never deadlifted this heavy and we didn't know what is possible. And I think there were a few kilos in the tank, not because I think I would have won, because I think Etienne also had a few pounds and a few kilos in the tank, but just because I wanted deadlift big numbers. And
Right.
That's the first goal, to deadlift around 350. In terms of bench, first goal of course is to break the open world record. It's 252, I think, 252.5 or 253. To bench above that, maybe even get up to 260 or something near 260. And squat has been going very well. I hadn't planned about squat. I hadn't thought about a lot about squat. I had no goals, but the rate it's going, I think around 350 also.
Oh wow. Okay. So we're getting in some big numbers. Like, what does that add up to into the terms of total range wise, roughly?
Hopefully something around 950. But I
So
gotta
that's
mention,
sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
always optimistic. So,
That's okay.
so
Hey man, you this is, it's not like attached to you. It's gotta be 950 or bust.
yeah,
Number one goal always is to win. So,
of course.
and then you add on afterwards, and we get that. But the 950 range by December, that really is the range that, for anyone listening, that's the range where you're winning open worlds possibly on any given day. I mean, that's around where I think Tony was, I would have to pull up a 952 or something, or, around that range is where you're at the top end. Devin from the USAPL won the 125s with around that range. Like I said, Tony, and Rondell's not here yet. We'll see what happens with Rondell. Rondell's a whole nother animal. Let's put a pin in him for a second. Let's deal with him later on. Obviously Bobb 960s, but you're within 10 kilos of Bobb then. And he hasn't bulked up yet. However, he also said he's not going to be filling it out fully bulking up, but he's got a world of potential. But if you do around that range by December, it starts laying the blocks because you're young. I mean, you're younger than all these guys. Now, ETN also is in the mix. But I mean, there's monsters out there. But you're a young man, and it starts laying those blocks you start seeing a pathway. By the time 2024 Worlds rolls around in next summer, do you think certain people are going to be surprised when you, ETN, show up at Worlds? Here's my impression. We have you, ETN, in the juniors from nations that aren't getting as much attention as Great Britain, and certainly the US. And if people or Rondell, who's not from the US, I get it, but he's obviously USA in the USFL, etc. So You guys aren't getting the same attention. And I think some people are going to roll into the world championships and get surprised and not understand how many people. I mean, if you and ETN are around 950 before you leave 2023, and I don't know if he's got another competition on the books before he leaves 2023, but if he does, he's probably pacing around the same as you. By the time Worlds rolls around 2024 and we're looking at the 120 Worlds, people who show up thinking, well, I'm a 950, I'm a late 900. If I'm a late 900s, join the club. It's going to be a join the club conversation. Yeah, guess what? There's a lot of guys and they're young and they're young dudes who are fresh and like it's going to get tough. The 120s is something. The 120s are back in a major way.
It's the 120s are exploding, and
right.
It's not just internationally. In Germany, same thing. The last years, I think the class that made the most progress are the 120s. I think this year the 120 total record was, I think, 855.
Oh my gosh.
And before it was 830. I think 855 was set by me last year, and now it's 925, and we have a lot of guys on over 850 and going into the 950 range, and internationally the same. Numbers are growing. I think 2018 or 2020, both me and Etienne would have won open worlds, and the class growing. And I think it has a lot to do with young people coming in, doing a lot of things right early, because training knowledge is becoming more. It's becoming better. A lot of guys are training very good, very young, building a lot of muscle, filling out the 120s, and coming in and growing. The bigger weight classes.
It's training knowledge for sure. Well, just before we get into that, just to put on more perspective, to your point about like 2018, 19, et cetera, comparing your totals, the world record right now still stands with Dennis Cornelius 978.5. 978.5. And that's a good, like, Dennis for years was like the GOAT, multiple time world champion. He went into the untested as a natural athlete and was competing against untested guys because that's just how good he was. He could. And he cut weight to make 120 in the untested on, I think it was like a deadlift bar, but he could weigh in 125. He hit 1,000 kilos. Like he's amazing, right? He's a legend, Dennis Cornelius. However, 978.5, my friend, by next Worlds, I mean, what are we talking about? We could have, like, again, this world record could get beaten over a couple times over. I mean, obviously, Bob's coming over. You young guns are all rising to the occasion. Let's see if Big Devin from USAPL comes over. Rondell, if he doesn't make Worlds, he could still make an international competition on the second half. Because that year will be over. So Rondell could be back. It's the 120s will be absolutely monstrous. And just putting historical relevance, I think this world record could get broken several times over. So just in terms of how good the 120s are now, training, I think, in terms, like, you're coming on here and you're explaining how you're doing it as well. Some people are going to listen and try some of these methodologies in terms of training. And I think for sure social media is helping for that, but also the popularization of powerlifting globally. In North America and US was like always for years, like slaughtering at classics anyways. And the equipped is different. In equipped, whatever, it's just a different animal. But in the classic division, US was slaughtering. But the popularity of powerlifting in Europe, and the amount of lifters in Europe, I forget how many lifters now France has, and Italy and Spain, but it's like at one point they were a fraction of what US is, and now they're like very quickly catching up. And it's cool to powerlift. People are hopping online. The women are like, I want to be like Leah Bavois, Jad Jacob, Noemi Alibert. Like, I want to be like that. And we're recruiting them over. And the same thing on the men's side, et cetera. Like guys like Penna who are like reaching huge amounts of people with their stories and content and whatnot. So I think the talent pool for powerlifting in Europe is expanding at an exponential rate. Dude, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have got you. We would have lost you to bodybuilding. You know how happy I am that that COVID happened? I'm like, but it's true. Like we wouldn't have got you. You know, you just wouldn't have found us. You stumble across powerlifting and God bless now we have you. And because we do, if you head up into these battles and people find you and be like, oh my God, this guy's a monster. He's strong. He's in these exciting battles. And everyone's watching on Eurosport as well. Millions of people on Eurosport. And
Yeah.
the video and content being put out from IPF Worlds, it looks exciting. It is exciting. I've been to like Worlds since 2016. It's an amazing experience. And people are like, how the fuck do I get in? I want to jump in on that.
Yeah.
I want to get involved in that.
Yeah. And it's crazy how many young people come into fitness, not just powerlifting, into fitness.
Right.
I think through social media, through TikTok, through last year, of course, like through Corona, because was not much to do. Then do social media, and bodybuilding and powerlifting is a great sport to present on social media platforms. And when I go to a commercial gym here in Germany, I think about 70-80% are under 20.
Oh, wow.
It's
So the
crazy.
future.
It's crazy how many people come into the sport. And of course, they eventually, a few of them going to decide, I'll do powerlifting, I'll do bodybuilding. And I think, especially in Germany, powerlifting is as the same stage bodybuilding was 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm.
So not that big yet, but the first influencers are coming in. The first people are presenting powerlifting on Instagram, on TikTok, and it's growing very fast. We have the first international guys who are presenting their experience in worlds in Euros on social media. A lot of juniors have a YouTube channel, are sponsored in Germany, and I think in the future it's gonna explode.
You got a YouTube channel. And
Yes.
you have a YouTube channel, you have a podcast, and obviously TikTok, Instagram, and you're leading the way yourself with this, putting out content, which is huge for us. You know, I had Alberto from Spain on the 74 kilo junior world champ, and he won the 66s as well. And in most of his content is in Spanish, Pena, Leia, and all them in French.
Yeah.
And what they found is the market for like you seize that market, and then all of a sudden, like if you're from you can't come from the US and take Alberto or Pena's market. You don't speak French.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking that market. That market's yours. And there's a whole market full of people into fitness. And here's what we're starting to notice with the numbers, like the Olympic Channel showed the IPF World Championships, and the Olympic Channel is just sports fans. Some of these streams got 400,000 views.
Yeah.
These are just people into fitness. For a while there, we thought nobody's going to watch powerlifting unless you're a powerlifter or like friends of the powerlifter. Now we're starting to find out, no, you just got to go to the gym and squat or bench or deadlift, and you know what
Yeah.
those are. And then you see it online, like the Olympic Channel, and you're like, oh shit, okay, I squat. Let me see this, and you'll watch. Yeah. And if that's all we got, if the people going to the gym around the world, that's enough people. That is enough people for all of us to eat food. Trust me. You know, for a while there, people thought like it can only get so big. There's a cap to how big we can get. That's not true, though. We're starting to find out. They're like, why would someone in the gym watch powerlifting? It's boring. And then the World Championships is getting more and more exciting the way it's presented. People in the crowd going crazy. Sheffield changed how we think about a powerlifting meet. And now people who are just gym goers, again, I've said this before, I say it again on the podcast. I listen to other podcasts that are not powerlifting podcasts, you know, MMA and boxing podcasts, and they were talking about Sheffield. because these are guys who are athletic, go to the gym, they lift, so they know what these lifts are.
Yeah.
They're aware of powerlifting, and they bought into the hype. Watch, they'd be like, "What? Let me just watch this," and we're like, "Holy shit! Did you see this? Did you see that?" It can happen. It can
And I
happen.
think and I think it will happen.
Yeah,
Especially as we have more battles, it gets more exciting.
we need that.
People, yeah, of course. We need more, yeah, just more fire. Just like a little bit of, because powerlifting as itself isn't the greatest sport to watch.
It's not
But
MMA or boxing, that's for sure.
of course, and if you have your guys that you follow on social media, that you are invested to, that you support, and they are battling it out against other people, more and more people gonna watch it. Of course.
So you need your guy, and that's where we double back to people in Germany aren't just going to watch a guy from UK and a guy from the US battle. They might, but it's not as big as, oh, we got a guy in there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. That's where we need people from other nations start stepping in. Not necessarily in every single weight class, but when they tune into the world championships, they need a couple. They got to be
Yeah.
in the conversation. And,
A few.
yeah, you need a few. You need a few. So we'll see what happens. What do you think's going to happen in the future for the 120s? Do you think? Did you see Dennis Cornelius squatted 830, which is in kilos? I mean, it's a little under. It's like a little under 400 kilos. But anyways, it's like Dennis Cornelius, the goat,
Huh.
squatted. It's like 370 kilos or 300 and whatever kilos in his garage, shoeless, and he's like Tony. He's like 40-year-old man.
Yeah.
120s last forever. The super heavyweights, because they're so big, 400-pound men, gravity itself just walking around is going to wear you down. It's difficult. And then the lighter men, Taylor Atwoods, whatever, he made it into his mid 30s. He's starting to get injuries starting to mount because you're shifting such incredible weight on a small frame. But the
Yeah.
120s, the world champ is Tony Cliffe. The GOAT, Cornelius, might come back. Like, do you guys last forever? What is this?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with frame. It has a lot to do with muscle mass, and I think the future for 120s is very bright. Because if Rondell comes over, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. But I don't think Rondell is going to be the only one having a total about over to 1,000 in the next years.
Oh
I
my
think.
God, that's going to be amazing. So essentially, we're just grasping now what the 120s are capable of because just now they're getting populated.
Yeah, yeah, and the more guys, as you said, the talent pool is getting bigger. I think a big thing too is a lot of guys are starting early, maybe doing bodybuilding first, transitioning to powerlifting, so they have a lot of muscle mass. They walk around heavier, and same thing as in bodybuilding. I mean, in bodybuilding, same thing. A lot of young guys are coming in who look incredible because training knowledge is better. You learn a lot through social media. You have a lot more motivation because you see more people doing your sport, doing what you do, and I think, especially in the heavier weight classes, that's gonna make a big difference.
I think the 120s is almost like that perfect weight where because like we said before, when you get into the 120 pluses and you get super huge, I mean, you got a guy like Jesus Oliveira and he's exploding on social media and
Yeah,
as he should. But in terms like overall longevity, but still the numbers are ridiculous. If
yeah,
you got several guys, like you're saying, over 1,000 kilo total, the numbers are unfathomably ridiculous. Big enough that, and when you walk in the gym, I don't need you to take off your sweater for me to know you're a freaking power lifter. You know what I'm saying? You walk in the gym, I'll be like, what does my man do athletically? He does something. Don't, he's
yeah,
not just an accountant. You know what I'm saying? Where
yeah,
other weight classes, guys walk down the street, you don't know they're like jack power lifters until they take their sweater off. And you're like, okay, now I see it. So there's something to
yeah.
be said for that too. when they see you in real life, you're as big as they imagined you should be. And
Yeah, and
the
a
120s are
lot of
perfect.
yeah, a lot of people want to be big, but they don't want to be as big as Jesus or something.
Right. Well, I mean, that's he's larger than life.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
is larger than life. You guys are massive too, though. But yeah, yeah, he's
yeah.
larger
That's
than life.
I think he's what does he weigh? 180 kilos.
Yeah,
I
probably
think around
around
that.
there.
That
I'd have to double
60
check.
kilos
Yeah,
more than me. So
that's crazy.
50% of my weight added on my weight.
Do you ever think about like, would you ever just to see go 120 plus, like in the future in 10 years, you're in your early 30s, be like, let me see? Or do you think, I mean, obviously that's 10 years is hard to tell, but are you like, I don't think so, man.
Mm, I think there's no reason for me to do that. No desire
Yeah.
because I don't really like being heavy. I don't really like eating a lot, and longevity and health is also a big thing for me. Also, a reason why I always eat clean and something. And I don't want to go over this.
Right. What do you think would help grow the sport in some of these European nations like Germany? If we continue to lean into growing the sport in Europe.
I think social media, of course, is a big part, and I think the structure of the divisions of the IPF itself needs to adapt to the new rules built by social media, and especially in these European countries like the BVDK, the IPF in Germany. Um, it hasn't quite realized what potential has the sport. In my opinion, hasn't quite realized what potential lies in this sport. I think you need to present your competitions, get in contact with sponsors maybe, which is not happening in Germany, for example, a lot, and let people use social media to promote the sport and support this. Do your own social media. I think till a few months ago, the IPF in Germany, the BVDK, the Instagram page had like 10 posts, and they
Oh
all
my
look like
gosh.
if a five grader had posted them. So I think that's a big thing, and just making the sport exciting, because as we said, as itself, powerlifting isn't the most exciting sport, but having rivalries, having competitions like Sheffield. In Germany, we have a lot of competitions that are coming up, which are designed by young people. Young people are investing in the sport, and I think we're on a good way, but we need to see these changes and use them to make the sport better.
Yeah, I mean, for sure the federation's got to be online more. Posting about their
Yeah,
athletes, like posting about competitions coming up. This is how you give your information. Here, deadline coming up. Make sure you register for blah blah blah. Here's some whatever. Here's competition results. Here's like reposting some of your athletes. Hey, we're sending a team to Junior Worlds. We're sending a team to Euros. Like and comment below showing support. Just those posts are a must. You got to do
yeah,
that. And that's how
yeah,
you bring people in. It's worth it. It is
yeah, of
100%
course.
worth it. Yeah,
Yeah, and,
for sure they have to.
and having live streams, good live streams where you can really watch the sport.
Dude,
I
you
mean,
have to. Do they
Chef,
not have a live stream?
I think we have a live stream, but it's not a good live stream.
Gotcha.
So you can't see as much. I mean, even Sheffield, big competition, very exciting. I think if I would have been there, it would have been way better. But the live stream itself, I think needs a little work for the how the big the competition as itself is.
And I can tell you, the the improvements they have in place, Sheffield number one, because they're ran into some technical issues, but because it's such a massive undertaking, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like trying to boil the ocean type deal. They took it all on. I know the improvements they have coming, it's going to be something else because they've almost like doubled their team. They're doubling down. They're like
crazy.
Yeah, and it was crazy already. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
doubling down in
yeah,
this type of improvement, because obviously it's year one is going to continue. And even like IPF Worlds, every year it's getting better and better, and everyone
yeah.
seems to be doubling down on their efforts. Um, but
And
yes, you need at the national level to grow the live stream commentators. You got to do your best.
yeah,
Even if you in the budget you only have enough for nationals and you're relying on volunteers. So you're not flying in the best of the best for commentary or whatever the heck, but just throw someone on to commentate. Somebody talking and someone not talking is huge.
yeah,
A couple camera angles is huge. Even if you got two or three, cutting between two or three is huge. These are things that like the amount of more people you're going to get to watch and jump in and participate goes through the roof, and we know this.
yeah. And I think it's coming, but yeah, as I said, it needs to improve. I mean, for example, Sheffield Year One, it's always hard to do this kind of thing at that level, from the ground up, just building it up, and you need to see what went wrong, what you need to improve, work on it, and yes, put a lot of work into the sport, especially on the national level, because I think the IPF is doing it, is progressing, but on the national level, I think the federations need to put a little work in.
And granting access to the athletes like yourself to make this social media.
Yeah,
When you come to nationals, some people like old heads, we call them, are like, I don't want too much cameras around, people bringing in like their social media teams and stuff. It's like, my friend, that's a good thing for you. You
yeah,
want people to show up. They're like your PR agents. Every single athlete you have is like your PR agent that you don't have to pay. And if
yeah,
they show up with a team that you're not paying for, if Jonah shows up with a freaking team that he's paying for, and yeah, they'll be like, he's promoting his own podcast, his own coaching. Sure, he's also promoting you, and you don't know it.
yeah,
Sure,
yeah,
yes, of course he's promoting his podcast. Of course he's promoting his coaching. Why wouldn't he? He's also promoting you.
yeah,
Like
and
look at it like that. Everybody wins. Just because he's winning, doesn't mean you can't win as well. Make it win-win. But some people don't
yeah,
view things like that. Some people are
yeah,
like, oh, Jonas shows up with a team. He's asking about, can I have my camera guy? And they roll their eyes like, oh, it's like, man, this is free PR, my friend. This is all lovely. This is great for you.
yeah,
And oh, he's promoting his podcast. You mean the podcast in Germany that he's talking about powerlifting? He's talking about nationals. He might be doing a preview show for your freaking event. Yes, sir. Let him do it. Get behind him. Like it's and I'm not saying they're doing this. I'm just saying sometimes in my travels, I will have bumped into people who don't get it.
yeah.
And
I did too.
yeah. And I feel like that tide is starting to turn.
Yeah,
It started like I've heard conversations of people where initially back in the day when I started, they would talk about social media influencers, and now several years later, their tone has changed and they've realized, oh, okay, we need these people. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Even
yeah,
like
yeah,
with myself, man, when I first came in the game as king of the lifts, it was one thing. And now I'm like vertically integrated within IPF doing like all this commentary and with like
yeah,
SBD with Sheffield, etc. And they're like, okay, no, we need some ambitious people doing
yeah.
things. It
And
helps.
seeing these people doing what they're doing, and maybe taking advantage of you, of them, for both sides. So as
Win-win,
you
man.
said, you do in commentary,
Yeah, yeah.
promoting the sport, they use your commentary to get their own competitions bigger. So it's just win-win for everybody.
And you doing your YouTubes now, so in the podcast. So a couple questions. So it's YouTube and podcast, because I know in Germany, pretty much everyone speaks English, right? Like I've met a lot of German people, and I think I've never talked to a German who didn't speak English, but maybe that's just me. But it is very, very prevalent over there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Most people at least understand English, can communicate in English. A lot of people don't speak it that well.
That's
I mean,
okay.
you can hear my English is a little bit broken.
No, it's pretty, dude. you're pretty good. Like most people I talk to, like Eric Roop, who's like the head of the IPF media team, he's German. Like, oh, you guys have really good English. I'm gonna like, and that's huge for being able to first off, take in other people's content, which is good, so you could take in their training methods and you understand, and you could quickly adapt training methods from around the world. Some nations, they don't have that. So the content in information and knowledge never enter their world. So they're like always 5 year behind. That's tough.
Yeah.
B, being able to outsource, like you jump on King of the Lifts, you speak English, and we're having an easy conversation. Perfect. Now everybody around the world is going to hear you. And when there's a language barrier, if that's not on the table, that's tough too. So that's huge to grow in Germany.
Yeah,
that's huge.
And I think even the next generation is going to speak better English than we are, because even especially young people are the most of their content they consume through social media, TikTok, I don't know, is always English. So it's only going to get better.
Dude, your English is like fucking bang on. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, man, you're fine. Better than you? I don't know. They'd have to come out like whatever. They'd be talking the Queen's English. It'd be, yeah. But is your social media like the YouTube podcasting? Is it German, English, a bit of both, or what are you leaning into?
A bit of both. I think my YouTube, as of now, is only in German. But when I train with maybe international people, talk with international people more, have a training session with some French guys or whatever, it's going to have a little bit of English content in it. On Instagram, I do most of my stuff in German because as of now, I'm most of big in German, as bigger in Germany than I am internationally. And so most of my content is in German, but I'm willing and I'd love to do more English content.
And how about the podcast?
That's in German too for now. We recorded one episode which didn't air yet. It's coming.
Yeah. You're saying you're just starting to get, I mean, you're fresh into powerlifting, but you're doing a lot real quick for year one, let me tell you. And it's not a bad thing to have German content though, because like Penna actually said, because I asked him about that. I'm like, you have a massive following that are English speakers, and like Penna's ability to read the room for social media is very high. And he was saying YouTube will actually penalize me if I go English. If I stick to a certain language and stick in there, the traction is super high because I have that market, and YouTube algorithm will push that like crazy. And you don't want to please everybody. It's okay to be like, you know what? I could come on King, let's speak English. In my captions for Instagram, Penna does French and English. Like you can hit the translate button, but he goes ahead of that because some people don't and they're lazy. So he goes French first, then English underneath. He's starting to work this out and realize like you can't do everything both. And he's like, he's focused on French for YouTube and it's exploding, man. And I think same with Alberto in Spain. And he was kind of saying the same thing where he's like, I could, but if I go English, I'm battling the entire English market, which could be insane.
That's it.
Whereas, and a lot of other nations speak German, not just Germany, but if you go German and you're like, there's not huge German powerlifters, bodybuilders, yes, but powerlifters, you're like, there could be a market here. There could be, let's see what we could do here. And then if you speak good English, you could hop on other platforms and speak English and do it all, right? Like Penna's doing. You'll find your way. It's interesting.
And that's what I want to do. Have a big following in pushing the powerlifting community in Germany. Do a little bit of English stuff because I always enjoy talking to people from other countries. And have information presented to me, do some international stuff. But most of my content will always be in German. So, and because, as you said, when you do German content, you're the only one, probably.
Not bad. Like those odds. Right?
Yeah. And when you do English, you have the whole world.
Right.
Yeah.
and it doesn't necessarily close the door on those either. But yeah, it's good timing, and it's going to be exciting to see, and that's why this European Championships we're going to be doing a fantasy league for people to make picks. We got a preview show, and we got some new names, some young guns like yourself, and it's a shame Tony's not going to be there because oh my God, the reigning world champion going against the reigning world champion, my friend. And if you get around 950 and Tony's around 950, oh my God, people would have took notice. But I get it. Tony's got Sheffield coming up, and my man's focusing, so it is what it is. However, people are still going to watch, and you can still make your statement. Just to let them know, I'm here now. I'm here now. I'll see you in 2024. Would you like to play the name game, sir? I do, where I throw a name out there, and you could give me one word, two words, a story, or whatever the heck you want to give after you hear the name.
Okay, but I may not know a lot of names.
That's okay. I'm choosing names that you know because I know that. Yeah, yeah. Don't worry. This is a name game catered to yourself. But okay. So first one off the bat, the 120 Junior World Champ, Chera Etienne.
Crazy deadlift. That's the first thing I noticed. And as actually very funny guy.
Is he?
Yeah, joked a lot around before the competition even. He was having fun.
And Lebanon, with Joya, ETN, Lebanon's starting to get some. They're starting to get some shooters over there where they're like winning junior world titles and they're going to progress into the open. And there's some talent over there, which is good.
Yeah, and they have a lot of support. You should have seen the chat on YouTube as Junior Worlds was live streamed. I think about 2,000 messages from Lebanon. Just
oh my God!
just the flag writing about Etienne, and
that's good. That's good crazy. For growing. It's good for growing, and as long as Etienne is in, the discussion in terms of these showdowns, all of those viewers. Now you add up Tony's viewers from the UK. Tony's super popular in the UK. You add up Bobb Matthews viewers, Rondell's, and then you bring in Germany, and the views are going to be amazing, my friend.
Yeah.
The views are going to be good.
It's going to be crazy.
How about this? Now we just mentioned him, Tony Cliffe.
Yeah, it's legend. Not more you can say about it. And I don't know if you want to hear that, but the second thought I had was old guy.
You know what? What I like about the 120s, not only is it an amazing disbursement of talent around the world now, not previously, but now you guys all over the world, Lebanon, Germany, US, UK, Trinidad, and probably more coming that I'm not even thinking of, but also demographics. Yeah. You have Dennis, if Dennis comes back, and Tony, who are 40s. And that's inspirational for people like, look, it doesn't matter if you're 23 or you are in your 40s. When you see a guy in his 40s do it, because we're all aging, right? This is it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's inspirational to be like, look, I'm 23 now, but when I'm 40, I might still be in there. Like I could be doing this forever. Like you see a guy like Tony, like to your point about look, you got an older, like he's a middle-aged man, and he's in there. He's the world champ, and he's in the mix, still hanging, still hitting PRs, doing his damn thing. The 120's got it all,
and that's also motivation for the young guys. Just having these role models who are maybe even teaching you about the sport, teaching about how to handle competitions. The pressure and so on. It's only great.
And it's when you see him and a guy like him, it's like he is the bridge to yesteryear. Where he is, when you see him, you understand he was competing in 2003. You know what I mean? Like you see it like 20 years ago. You see him and you're like, I'm competing against a guy who's been around as long as I've been alive competing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to go home and be like, look, I went against the freak athletes like Bobb Matthews. I went against like the legends like Tony Cliffe. Who's Tony Cliffe? Oh, let me tell you about Tony Cliffe. Like it's, it brings different backgrounds and stories, it's
Yeah.
unique guy. Sports, you need guys like that, man. And he's spicy. He's a character. He ain't dull. He ain't dull, which is good. I'm glad he's around. He spices things up. But anyways, how about this? Because I was about to say, Tony calling Bobb Matthews Sideshow Bob and a 105 flunky or whatever the wording he uses, spicing up the inevitable showdown, which is great. Got everybody talking. The next name on the list, Bobb Matthews.
I would the first word that came to mind is interesting, because I'm very interested is what the numbers are gonna look like when he bulks up. What's gonna come out of him if he does a lot of progress, if maybe he doesn't do a lot of progress, doesn't have a lot of the numbers aren't changing much. I think it's very interesting, and it's bringing hype into the sport. I need to say, again, I don't want to sound ignorant, but I don't know a lot of Bobb Matthews. I just started hearing. I heard the name SSJ Bob before, but really the name Bobb Matthews just popped up after I heard he was coming into the IPF. But I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, in terms of a 120s, there's question marks. He's got a world of talent, a
Yeah.
crazy potential. And again, speaking to all the different backgrounds, because he's coming from 105, he's going to be so much smaller. It's like a David versus Goliath showdowns. So if that's what you like, is the smaller guy, David versus Goliath, the guy who's daring to be great and jumping
Yeah.
up a weight class, you got him too. You got him too. Like
Yeah.
we have so many good 120s that whatever you like, we got you covered. And his overall potential, like in training, he went for that 1,000 kilo total, missed it, somewhat fried the nervous system a little bit, took a little bit to come back from it. But he is that guy who's like dares to be great. That's why
Yeah.
he went for the 1,000 kilo. I'm like, did you regret going for that 1,000 kilo SBD day that you missed and fried that nervous system and took a while to bounce back from? He's like, no. And God bless, because that's what makes him him.
Yeah.
That's why he's a 105 going into the 120s. And he's like, yeah, but whatever. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah, you can't tame a wild horse type deal. You don't want to.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what makes him attractive and makes him him. Don't just let him go. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. But okay, next one on the list. We talked about him a little bit earlier in the podcast. The previous 120 GOAT. I don't know where he is in terms of the 120 GOATism now, but another old guy, Dennis Cornelius.
Yeah, I think maybe GOAT right now is a good description.
Right.
Also, I don't know a lot about Dennis Cornelius. I just heard a few numbers. I heard the name, and if he comes back, that would be crazy, because you have a legend coming back. You have a new guy from the USAPL coming over, from the 105s coming over, and you have maybe someday Rondell coming over, the returning champ, Rondell Hunt, new people coming in like Etienne or me.
Yeah.
That just adds to the hype.
Yeah, it would. He's before your time. Dennis will have been the guy before you came into powerlifting. It was all Dennis. It was all Dennis. Dennis was so dominant. Again, like he left the tested and went against the untested as a natty lifter and was competitive and battling Larry Wheels. He battled Larry Wheels as a natty, and they were like, what the like, that's how special he was. Right. And then some injuries caught him. He got into like other things, and now we see him squatting, 370 kilos in the gym, and it's like, or in his garage, sorry. And it's like, Dennis, you coming back, my man? It's always like everybody loves a good comeback story.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
old guy who might be coming back. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, it would just make everything even more stacked.
Yeah.
But
Would
we'll
be
see.
crazy.
It would be freaking
Maybe.
crazy, man. You got Tony Cliffe, Dennis Cornelius, and then all these young guns. Like, it'd be crazy,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. You go from Tony Cliff standing alone in the 120s to maybe 6, 7 guys battling it out for first place.
950 and up.
Yeah.
Can you
With
imagine?
with every guy having more or less an interesting story behind him, coming
Yeah.
from the 105s, coming back, or just being young and coming in the sport. So it's
And representing all different parts of the world, like you in
yeah.
Germany, Lebanon, whatever. Now we're better represented around the world.
Yeah.
Which is good. How about this one, sir? We have to throw him in there. Rondell Hunt.
I don't want to sound pathetic, but I would say role model.
That's not pathetic.
Because
That's not pathetic.
that's these are the numbers that I want to reach. These are the numbers that when I think about powerlifting in the future, I want to be at. And I just like the guy a lot because he's also very calm. He doesn't, he just does his thing, lifts heavy, actually talks about a lot about the sport, about programming technique, has a lot of knowledge, which interests myself. I'm very interested in how powerlifting works, programming technique, biomechanics, so on. And yeah, I just like, apart from the numbers, which are fucking crazy.
Yeah. 1045.
Yeah.
1,045 kilo total. What are we
Yeah.
talking about? That's crazy.
That's just crazy. Yeah. And yeah, apart from that, I just like how he is presenting himself on social media and just being this calm, nice guy.
He lives up in real life too. Like he really is that dude. Like he really is a
Yeah.
good guy. Solid dude. Like he'll engage, like him and Taylor are going back and forth at him, and he'll engage, but when because he knows like it's part of the job where you're trying to build hype. But
Yeah.
when you meet him, man, he'll live up. He's a good dude. He's an honest dude, and he's doing a lot for the popularity in Trinidad. He was saying when he won Junior Worlds in 2018, powerlifting was so much smaller in 2018,
Yeah.
and it was Junior World title, not the Open. He out-totaled everybody in the Open. That's how special he was. He was already a freak. He was already a freak. So he won Junior Worlds, out-totaling everybody in the Open, and went home in Trinidad. I mean, national news coverage, mainstream news on talk shows. The biggest company in Trinidad was sponsoring him. Some big oil or gas company was like, "Let's sponsor him," and he was a junior world champion, man. Like Trinidad will explode in terms of building popularity if we could just
Yeah.
get this guy over here. And unfortunately, he was in the USAPL as a guest lifter, and it's just not doing him justice in terms of the rest of the world seeing it. His performance at 1045, 1,045 kilos, we had that podcast, top 5 performances all time in powerlifting. And he was an honorable mention, but he didn't make top 5. And he's like, dude, what the shit? I didn't make top 5. And I'm like, dude, I could be talked into, we talked in the DMs. I could be talked into you being in the top 5. It's difficult because you got to bump someone else out of the top 5. But
Yeah.
he for sure could make the top 5 with his performance. You could tell me if someone said he did to the 120s what Taylor Atwood in 2021 did to the 74s, or what Perkins did to the 74, 75s in just past September. If you want to tell me that's how dominant his performance is, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would,
And
it's crazy.
and it's not the end for him. I mean, he's not that old.
He's in his
He
20s.
keeps progressing.
Yeah.
So
120s last
who knows
forever.
what's coming? Yeah. So maybe when he's 40 and still competing, who knows what his number is going to be like?
That's the blessing because he lost 4 years. If you heard the podcast, about like he lost 4 years due to political. It's a long story. You don't have to rehash it now, but it's tough. It's got to be very frustrating for him. But the only consolation I could tell him is, my friend, you're still in your late 20s, mid to late 20s. I think it's 26, 27. And 120 seem to last forever. So you could still be that guy with the crazy resume. As a matter of fact, you could still be the guy with the crazy resume, and everything you went through is even richer when you tell your story and people hear it. Be like,
Yeah.
when I was a junior, I out-totaled everyone in the open, and then I got left for 4 years due to politics. Nothing he did, and this is my story, and it'll end up being a
It's a
better
great
story. You
story.
got to be. It's a
Yeah.
great story already. And I'm like, Rondell, don't worry, man. Everything's gonna be okay. Like I hope, like it'll be good as long as one thing I just honestly believe. If he stays being like a guest lifter in the USAPL, it's just not going to be that story that it could be. That's where he was like
Yeah.
humming and hawing, like, do I want to lose another year? And I'm like, my man, if you stay where you're at, are you going to end up when you are 40 and looking back? Are we going to talk about you like we talk about like Taylor Atwood? Because he said on the podcast, people would be talking about me like they talk about Taylor if I didn't lose those 4 years. Maybe
Yeah.
not. But the point is, at this trajectory, if you stay where you're at, are we going to? That'll be tough, man. It'll be
Yeah. It's
tough.
crazy.
I think we know what he's got to do. If he comes over, wins Worlds, goes to Sheffield or whatever. Whoa, Nelly. And now the 120s are stacked around the world. The timing's now.
Yeah.
The timing's now, my friend.
A crazy competition.
Oh, yeah. I hope he does. I hope, whatever he does, I'll support him. If he stays USAPL and he wants
Yeah.
to stay guest lifter, I got his back, man. He's a
Yeah.
solid dude, and he's working with what he's dealt. He didn't ask for this.
Yeah. When even if he stays as a guest lifter, in my opinion, he's just still the strongest 120 in the world. It doesn't
And
matter if he does it in competition against other guys. He is the strongest. It just would be nice to him competing against the other guys, so he gets more recognition for it and
100%.
having the battles.
Put it this way. You're 100, like you're right. I love that even though USAPL, the weight class is 125. If he weighed in at 125, people take him out of the conversation.
Different story.
Different story. And this is what some people in USAPL don't understand. If you have a different weight class than the entire world, the world isn't looking at you anymore. They don't see you as a 120. Rondell knows this. Rondell's a smart guy, and he knows legacy-wise, I need to weigh under 120. Thank you very much. I can weigh 125. I'm going 120, so I'm compared to the rest of the world. I'm compared to history. That's why I'm doing this. When people ask why, 100%, I love that he's doing that. And to your point, he would be the strongest 120 in the world, and that's great. And guys like me and you and our powerlifting nerds who are super into the sport will appreciate him like we do.
Yeah.
But the platform, to share the platform with 120s from all over the world and be a part of that party. And that platform we're talking about, the IPF World's views is like 5 times more than USAPL's.
Yeah.
Let alone the Olympic channel, when they put the IPF Worlds, it's like 10 times or more. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Let alone Eurosport, which is millions of people, let alone whatever. Let alone Sheffield, let alone it's not even close. In terms of like building a legacy, not just a legacy, but those moments when you show up and look around the room like I'm at the World Championships. Those moments, you don't want to miss that, man. You know that, like, it's a shame. So like a few nerds like me and you who are into powerlifting or super into, we'll know who he is, but the rest of the world won't. It'd be a shame, man.
Yeah.
Damn shame. But how about Jesus Oliveras?
First word in my mind is heavy and strong.
Heavy and strong.
Heavy
the
and
heaviest
strong.
and the strongest. You know,
yes,
you're not lying.
Yes. And I think Jesus is just it's just raw talent and hype, because I think he's also 24.
I think he might be 25. He's young anyways, mid-20s.
Yeah, very young. Also, for me, came out of nowhere, came to Sheffield, performed, hit these crazy numbers, and keeps progressing. So even if the open class isn't for me, it's not my thing, you gotta respect it. And it's just nice to see these crazy weights get moved.
I mean, he has a total bigger than anyone in the untested. let
Yeah.
alone the tested. He's the strongest
Yeah.
powerlifter that ever lived. And, in boxing and MMA, your heavyweight champion of the world is like the apex
Top
predator,
of
the
that.
top guy.
Yeah.
So we're all and on those other podcasts I was talking about that aren't powerlifting podcasts that were talking about Sheffield, they were talking about Jesus. Like they were talking about
Yeah.
some other people as well because they tune in, you're going to see other people. But Jesus, being the strongest human that ever lived, squatting and deadlifting and benching what he's doing, when he shows up to a competition, like we're all on his back. When you're the
Yeah.
heavyweight champion of the world, we're all on your back. So when
Yeah.
you show up to Sheffield and the random general public tune in to watch you, they'll also get to see whoever Delaney Wallace,
Yeah.
whoever, all of us, Gavin Aiden, and then they'll be like, "Oh, that was very entertaining seeing Gavin and Jonathan Keiko battle. Like that was very entertaining." They stick around, but
Yeah.
Jesus is going to bring you in because you're going to hear about. Did you hear about the guy who can squat 1,000 pounds?
Yeah.
Did you hear about? He's that guy. So
Yeah.
he's important to us.
He's
He's
that guy.
important to us all.
Describes perfect.
Right.
Describes perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I have to say to Jesus, I follow him on Instagram, and he needs to learn how to post.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
He did a lot of, recently he did a few posing videos and
Oh, pose! I think
pose, how to pose.
Yeah. You know what? You could help him. Yeah, listen,
Yeah,
I
I'd love
feel
to.
this. I feel this pain because, dog, I swear to God, I try to pose sometimes. I'm like, fuck me, I don't know what I'm doing. It's so much harder than you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It's
is.
very
It's
hard.
literally a skill.
The first time I posed, I think I had my muscle. I was sore for like 4 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I did my first prep, had my first posing seminar with my coach, and we posed for 2 hours. And before I didn't really practice, so I was sore for 4 days. Yeah.
No, people. I had a buddy back in the day, who was into bodybuilding, and it is a full on it's like learning how to dance.
Yeah.
It's not can you just walk in there and dance? No, you got to learn how to dance. Same thing for posing. You're not going to know, and yeah, I mean, Jesus is huge. If we got in, if Jesus got a posing coach, I mean, I don't know if he cares about it, but if he did just for social media, because he's like a jacked 120 plus.
Yeah.
He could do this. For a 120 plus, my man is jacked and he looks huge. And yeah, if he learns how to pose, because his social media is getting big, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
People,
because that's what I said. It's a lot of hype around him.
mhm.
I mean, he's the strongest guy in total numbers, and that just creates hype. That's great for social media. The biggest weights get the most views.
For
That's
sure.
simple.
Who else is a good poser for powerlifting? Is Russell good?
Powerlifting. He's good, but I've never seen him hit a lot of complicated poses.
Okay.
He just
That's fair.
uses his strong points. He has great chest, great legs, and if he just stands there and flexes his legs and his chest, it's just going to look great. I've never seen him really do a full-on posing routine. So every pose, you back double bicep and so on. So
Yeah. He's staying in the pocket. He might not know the poses that well, or maybe he's just whatever, showing his best suits. Is there someone else like that? They like, damn, he could pose.
I don't, off the top of my mind, I don't
You
think
know what
I've
we need you.
seen
You know what we
one.
need you to do when you go to Open Worlds? You pull the fellas aside and do a posing seminar. Like, all right, gentlemen, let's clean a few things up here. I'm seeing some sloppy posing. and we're gonna increase all of our social media by for the love of the game. Let's do this, and we're gonna bring some people in.
At least the guys on the podium, so we're going to take a great picture.
That's right. The guys on the podium, and there'll be a dude who comes in like 15th, and like, my man, you're middle of the pack at Worlds, but you got a fucking body on you. Let me show you something, right? But how about this for the last name? Let's do this. The guy that you found first for the last name, Russell or he?
Showman, maybe.
You ain't lying. He's a showman.
Yeah, and I think he does bring a lot of attention to the sport. He's great with social media. He knows how to present himself. I like his confidence. How he's, yeah, just knows what he can do. Very interested and look forward to him competing in the IPF again. And he has swag. I don't know if you say swag anymore, but it's just his content is cool, his clothes are cool, and it's just he brings a lot of great things together combined in his social media presence and powerlifting.
Can you imagine him at Sheffield, man? It'd be crazy. It'd be it would be crazy. Or him at Worlds when he returns, and battles the other 83s of the world, and like it's gonna be crazy, man. And he's got a swagger that there's some people have it. Some people have it. Plus he's got the look. So when he does do, his posing and whatnot, he looks like you said, the guys on social media like, I want to look like that.
Yeah.
So they gravitate towards it.
He's great for the sport.
There it is. And that's why guys like you, telling you, man, once you get into the mix and you start making your posing videos and pics and start doing podcasting and whatnot, let's see what happens. The world is your oyster, my friend. Thank you for coming on. I got you back. I'll help you out along the way. And I think you could do some big things in Germany. And I think in the 120s at the world scene, I think, you can make a statement at the European Championships. And by the time the World Championships rolls around in 2024, you'll be right up in that mix. And we're going to have ourselves the best 120 kilo battle we've ever seen at Worlds. And I'm excited already.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for the talk. It's been great. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely, man. We'll talk in the DMs, and we'll do this again. We'll do it again, man.
I'd love to.
I hope you do great on the podcast and everything you're doing, because we need people like you, ambitious young people who are going to push the game further in their national, federations and whatnot, and within Germany. So I got you back, man. Stay healthy. Keep doing your thing. I know you will. Sounds like you're in the pocket on all your lifts, and I look forward to it, man. We'll be in touch, my friend.
We'll be. All right.
Okay, buddy. Talk to you later. And everybody listening, please do subscribe as per usual. And until next time, Pack Lapadat, 6 up. You're out.